everyone. So as you're still coming in, and I know, ping your folks, you do not want to miss this today. My name is Claudia Thompson. I am the head of the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion panel here for BNI US. I'm still trying to fight my sore throat, but that's totally okay. We're going to get through this together. And I am so excited and honored again to have just another powerful conversation. And it is for Autism Acceptance Month. And we have two amazing guests here who are going to introduce themselves. But this talk is something that is near and dear to my heart. I've wanted to have this conversation for a while. And so I'm really grateful that we're able to have it. So I'm going to call on each guest first. They're going to just give a quick introduction. So Helen, I'm going to start with you. Helen is down in Connecticut. So welcome, Helen.
Hi, thank you for having me. All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Helen of Miss Dua Photography. I'm a photographer on the autism spectrum, and I do a variety of work, including pets and families, portraits, promotional events, and some commercial or business, and also architecture. So thank you for having me.
That is so cool, Helen. Thank you for being here. We really appreciate it. And then we also have, we're going to go down south a little further to Charlotte, North Carolina, with Eric Chesson. So Eric, why don't you go and introduce yourself?
Hey, everybody. I'm Eric Chesson. And of course, I have the Northern accent because I'm from New York originally. I'm Eric Chesson. I'm the founder of Autism Fitness. I am, by trade, I am an exercise physiologist with a background in behavior analysis and positive behavior support. And I've spent the last 20 years developing Autism Fitness, a worldwide reaching program. I run a certification for professionals and parents who want to integrate the best possible fitness and adapted PE programs in any setting. And here in Charlotte, I run a one-to-one program for teens and adults on the autism spectrum and with other neurodiversities.
Wow, that is incredible. And it's so unique. We're going to get into it a little bit, but that's just amazing how you were able to craft that and put that together. Just to have a unique niche that way. So I can only imagine all of the amazing, wonderful clients and families that you've impacted over the last couple of decades, it sounds like.
It's been a journey.
Yeah, no, that's incredible. So thank you for joining us here. So we're going to jump right into our questions. The first one is all about obviously being inclusive, right? We want to make sure a lot of times people look at diversity and, only want to make sure they have one of every type of person, but they don't really focus on making sure that the space is inclusive. So the first question I have is, if we're speaking to someone who is nervous about attending or joining BNI, what are some things that we can say or do to help them feel more comfortable? So I can, Helen, I can go to you first, or if you want to wait, take a second to think about it, and I can jump over to Eric.
No, I can answer it. I actually have a teacher who has always seen the best in all of us. She's always has what's called it's called a pizza breath. It's like smelling the aroma of pizza in through the nose and out through the mouth. And also probably meeting someone with someone ahead of time, that would also help make them feel more comfortable. Just give them a minute to maybe collect their thoughts if they want to take notes. That's always helped me, actually. I've always, I met someone on one-to-one, either on Zoom or maybe in person. And I've also to take a lot of notes.
That's fantastic. That's awesome. And thank you for sharing that, Helen. And actually, it makes me feel like we did something right for this talk, because we had several conversations and a Zoom to prep and to make sure. So it sounds like that put you in a space of comfort right before. Is that correct?
Yes, I also like to ask a lot of questions just to make sure I understand everything and get the clarification I need.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you so much, Helen. Eric, did you have anything to add here?
Yeah, I think Helen really encapsulated that wonderfully, and to build on it, the best way, and we've seen this over the last 2.5 years, the best way to increase anxiety is to not know what's happening next. So the best way to decrease anxiety is to give somebody a good framework or some structure about what's going to happen. And we even see this, with the neurotypical population coming to a BNI meeting. You get that trepidation, you get that anxiety, you get that nervousness. So I think taking a couple minutes to take someone through what a chapter meeting looks and sounds like, also what the expectations are, what the flow is, and giving them a sense of confidence by way of being prepared for it as well. So when you're giving your 45-second presentation, these are the 3 that introduce yourself, a little bit about your business, and how can we help you. And I think the more structure we can give someone around that, anybody really, that the more helpful it's going to be. So when those expectations are clear, and when someone understands, how the meeting works and who the other people are, and gets a sense of their place in that situation, I think it's a lot. It leans a lot more towards making them comfortable, making them feel welcome, and allowing them to participate at their best.
That's
Right.
fantastic. Yeah.
just
Oh,
like-
Helen, go ahead go for it.
I would also like to may sometimes bring up topics that were introduced at a previous meeting, or maybe the last meeting we had, just to give them an idea of what's going on.
That's wonderful. That's great. So to recap them and fill them in, just to make sure that's great.
Make sure they're not missing anything, or maybe they feel like they're missing something. They just need clarification and understand.
Yeah, I mean, and that sounds like what Eric said, no surprises, right? Like to decrease the anxiety, just giving people as much of a heads up as possible before they show up to that meeting, to let them know exactly what's going on. So that sounds, that's very great advice. And Sally in the chat says it helps if I reassure that person that there is no obligation to join, give them an idea about how the meeting operates, and then that I'll be there with them. So that is also something that sounds similar. And you're right, Eric, that goes beyond, that goes to all abilities. If people sometimes don't know what to expect, they may get nervous about even attending because they may not know if they have to speak too much, or if they're going to be like standing in front of everyone, or so so that's, And what else, Helen?
Oh, a lot of times I also have trouble explaining things through my voice. So it's better to either send a message and write things down. I always have.
No, that's great. That is also something to keep in mind as far as communication with people as well. So we're going to jump into the next question. And this is inside of our, space of being positive and supportive. What can we do to better support BNI members on the spectrum? So Eric, I'm definitely going to jump to you first on this one.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think there's one answer. I think some of the things that we discussed in the last question have direct application to this. And, being welcoming, giving enough information, and not overloading someone with information as well. And asking open-ended questions like, what would, would you like help with your presentation? Even breaking down someone's business and saying, okay, where do you see your business is really strong? What would you like to accomplish? And making very clear, actionable goals, both for that person's business and for the meeting. You can have these large scale macro goals, and then you can have micro goals, which can just be the presentation itself. And because, and I'd love to get Helen's input on this as well, because the spectrum varies so widely. I don't think that it's so much about a global approach. Certainly there are best practices for, socialization and for integrating people into a group, but get to know that person too, because that person is going to have areas of strength and areas where they could use some bolstering too. So I think the better, I think one-to-ones are absolutely key here. Get to know the person, and then you'll get to know how to help them.
Yeah, so meeting with one person. Go ahead, Helen.
Well, I was just gonna jump in on what Eric said. It also helps to make steps, not maybe like a long list or maybe a short list of goals on the steps. It also, what was it? I lost my thought.
That's okay.
Okay, just when what Eric said, it helps to make a list of steps and maybe come up with a list of topics on what interests you. Yeah, just going back to that last question.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's great too. So making a list of that as well. And I like Eric's suggestion about meeting one-on-one with someone. We call them one-to-ones, but that we sit down with that person, and whether it's a Zoom or an in-person meeting, but really getting to know that particular person, because everyone is not a monolith in each demographic. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Everyone is unique, right? It's not going to be the same for everyone who is on the spectrum. So
right,
yes.
There's a lot of diversity. We're all special. I mean, we're all unique.
Absolutely. Yes, I would 100% agree with that. So we're going to go now to our next question. And before I go to the next question, for our folks who are watching, if you're here live today, please make sure to put your questions in the Q&A. It would be helpful. Helen communicated that it takes her a minute or so to process the questions, to understand, like to give her a minute to kind of figure out a response. Not always, but most of the time. So if you can put those in advance, it will be easier, so we have some time, okay? All right, awesome. So did I get that, Helen? Did I get that okay?
Yeah, you're good.
All right, great. So meeting format. So the meeting format, we have here in BNI, we have obviously in-person meetings only, virtual online meetings, and then a hybrid, which is the first meeting of the month in person, and then the remaining meetings virtually. Okay, so again, this is going to be something that this is not the right answer, but I definitely want to hear perspective here of what both of you think of this. So how do you prefer to network? Is it online or in person? And then, is there a meeting format that is preferred more by someone or, most people on the spectrum? So I would love to hear from both of you on this if possible.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on the person's preference, if they want to do it online or in person. But personally, for me, I've always loved in-person meetings. I love meeting people. I love making new connections, and I love keeping busy, going places all the time. And I love to travel.
That's fantastic. That's great. So you actually prefer in person. So that's very helpful to know. Yeah. Anything to add to this, Eric?
Only that I'm so glad, Helen mentioned that as well. Again, it's going to depend on the person. I think in-person lends much more towards being able to really get a sense of someone's personality, to get inflection, to get body language, to get face language. It's tough virtually as well. So as a personal preference, I would always go towards in person. And of course, there are going to be, I think, some outliers who prefer the online version, and that really works for them. I don't think that's going to be the majority of people in general.
Wow, that's interesting. Because I would have thought it might have been different. So this is interesting. This is insight for me that I did not have. Because I would have thought more, because from what I've understood, and again, the spectrum ranges, but I've known that some people have a hard time, like you said, and maybe it is reading the body language with eye contact and things like that. So that would make sense that you would get a better handle on that if you're in the same room as someone. So this is pretty interesting as we're creating chapters and creating up, an inclusive environment for people. Helen, did you have something else?
No, I can't think of anything at the moment.
Okay, we're going to jump to our next question. So learning and systems, okay?
Mhm.
So are there other ways that BNI can support with the chapter education unit opportunities? So the online learning that we have webinars, we have podcasts. Are there any other ways that we are actually able to support, or in person? We're starting to get back to some in-person opportunities as well. So are there any ways that we can actually support as far as educating people on how to be an effective BNI member and a networker? So either of you can offer this. I mean, Eric, you might.
I think the member mentors are the most important component to this, because again, going in with any type of supposition about, okay, this individual, might have autism. Well, what does that mean? So let's interact with that person as well. And I think just having that general guidance, I think starting from the general and going to specific in any case is the way to go. So having the opportunity to learn about someone is going to give you a better idea of where they might need support in general, because and it being Autism Awareness Month in April, traditionally that means that everybody is going to see here are the hallmarks of all, or these are some of the common themes associated with autism, but it's so much more than that. I mean, that's a starting place, but we want to learn about that person, and how that person operates too, and ask them, how they prefer to be addressed, or what would work for them as well, especially in a situation like BNI where it is so specified too.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Helen, did you have anything else to add there?
I would say look at the newsletters that maybe you have, if you send in any newsletters, or maybe in the newspaper for any educational resources, or maybe Facebook.
Okay. Yeah, so, well, that's helpful. Is that, does that seem to work for you?
Yes, it does.
Okay, perfect. Yeah. I think the next question is more about outside resources. I do see one question. We're going to get to live Q&A in a minute. So if you're dropping questions in the chat, please transfer them to the Q&A. That would be very helpful for us, just in the world of being able to ask the questions. So let's see. So the resources. All right. So which resources can you recommend to promote awareness and acceptance of our members on the spectrum? So any books or movies, online groups? I know, Helen, you have a Facebook group that you shared with me that I think is incredible, of building community in your area, or any other organizations. So if you could actually start with that, Helen, talking about your Facebook group, I think this is great.
Sure. It's called the Inclusives. Well, I mean, right now it's called the North Haven Inclusives, but I'm going to fix that actually. I created it to make more connections with people, to make more friends, share resources, anything that really interests the people. And let me see, as far as movies, and I would say A Dog's Journey, if anyone's seen that. It's a really great storyline and it's really inspirational.
Oh,
Yeah,
I have not
and
seen that yet.
that's all right. I'm also a part of what's called Best Buddies. Just in case if anyone's looking for any friends or wants to make new friends, join Best Buddies.
I love it. Yeah, that is based out of here in Massachusetts, and Tom Brady, I think, is one of the head ambassadors of Best Buddies. So that is another really incredible organization. Thank you so much, Helen, for that. I appreciate it.
Welcome.
Yes. Eric, any other resources that you can think of to support, just in general, folks on the spectrum?
Yeah, I always tend towards finding a really good local organization or local chapter, because again, you can get general information. There's a difference between information and action. So you can get good and, quote good, but good information from, one of the big national autism organizations, the Autism Society of America, or some others. But I would always tell somebody to find some local representation. For example, in a quick nod to my friends over at Autism Strong, who do a wonderful job of promoting not even autism awareness, but embracing autism in the Charlotte area as well. I think the local groups oftentimes there's a lot more you can learn because it's immediately accessible. So if someone were to volunteer, for a few weeks, because again, with the spectrum, you're getting so much diversity as well. So to just read a list of check off of, okay, this is what goes on with autism, I don't think it gives as full a picture as coordinating with a local a local chapter of some other organization and really learning what autism or what the autism environment looks like in your area.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And like you said, more accessible resources. I know we have a ton here in Massachusetts and even local in the Boston area, but there's some down in Western Mass and down by the Cape. There's just different opportunities. So yeah, go ahead, Helen.
There's also a YouTube channel that I found really cool, really helpful. If anyone's looking for family fun videos, they're called Working with Lemons. They're a family of filmmakers, and they do a ton really awesome videos, such as live action videos from Disney movies and some Broadway.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, the last one they actually did was in Canto. We don't talk about Bruno.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they're a really awesome group of filmmakers. I follow them on Facebook and Instagram, so check them out.
I love it. And then Encanto, I can't get enough of those songs. So I have to, that's amazing. All right. So we're going to jump now to some questions that you all have. And so the first question, so Sally, did you have something to say? No? Okay. So Sally said, I don't know much about autism. My younger brother is at the mild end of the spectrum, so I understand some of the challenges with socialization, but I'm curious about recognizing someone who is on the autism spectrum who we may have just met. And because it doesn't manifest as a physical feature, right? So if there's something physical, sometimes if someone has a physical disability, like they can't walk or they're missing a limb or something else. So to your point, you don't always know, it's not always identified. So are we more likely to become friends with someone before we learn that they are in this population, I'll say? So I think I've asked that right. So I don't know if either of you, if you want to take a moment, Helen. So Eric, I don't know if you have anything to say about that.
Eric,
Sure.
right, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Helen.
Oh no, I was gonna say you can start first. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I was interrupting you to start.
Oh.
Yeah, you might not know, and that's fine. It comes back to taking, really a human-centered approach to someone. Now, Helen, and real huge thanks to you for being here also. But for you, for example, you need sometimes, a few extra seconds to process a question before you can give us a great answer. So that's something that you might want to, that you may learn along the way, and that's extremely helpful information, but you may not know that immediately. So if someone needs a few extra seconds to answer a question, I think, especially with the core values in BNI, with with givers gain, and also with with the way that we interact with each other, we always want to do what's in each other's best interest. And that also means, figuring out, all right, they usually take an extra 10 or 15 seconds before answering a question, or they don't make a lot of eye contact. And that's fine. So I think after a few meetings with someone, you start to get a sense of their personality, and you can get a sense of, how they operate when asked questions, or what their answers are generally like, and you go from there.
Yeah, I mean, also, in the beginning, for a while, it was hard for me to recognize social cues.
Mhm.
So, a lot of times, sometimes I would like flap my hands or do maybe odd things that people found strange. When living in Colorado for maybe, I think, part of my life, it was hard for me to make friends. And so I felt really lonely because everyone thought I was strange. But after moving to Connecticut, however, I started learning more about myself. And actually, my dad was the one who introduced me to a very special friend. And she's taught me so much. And then I really love it here in Connecticut. I love making friends, and it's open to a whole new world of possibilities for me.
There we go. Sorry, I was muted. Yes, no, I agree. I know I lived in Connecticut for 10 years myself, and I know that there are a lot of resources. I think in general in the Northeast, I know that there's a big emphasis on support, but it's good to know that there's just as many support and resources in Charlotte, and other places. But I definitely know of Connecticut in particular, just because of personal experience, that there are just a tremendous amount. So I'm glad that you feel really supported where you live now, Helen.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. So there were some other ones in the chat. Other people kind of mentioned some things here. So let me just see what's here.
Just real quick, if that's okay.
Sure.
I'd just like to get a very special shout out to, if it's okay, a celebrity, a very inspiring hero who's on the spectrum like me, Dan Aykroyd from Ghostbusters. He's very,
wow.
Yeah, I didn't know that about him, but he's my hero. He's a very creative, inspiring person, and I just love how he interacts in the movie, and taught people on the spectrum how to believe in themselves and conquer the impossible. I actually wrote to him through Facebook. It was his birthday, but it's okay if you didn't see it. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. I did not know that Dan Aykroyd was on the spectrum.
Neither did I. I
Wow.
researched it. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Impressive. That's cool. That's very cool to know. And I'm going to assume that he did see it and was very delighted that he got your happy birthday message. So we have another question that came in from an anonymous attendee. So I am a member of BNI and a mother of a child with autism, and I am originally from the Democratic Republic of the Congo. So that is in Africa. I have created a nonprofit called Autism Congo to help the children with autism in that area because of the way that they are treated. I have a kick event to raise funds in June 25th. Is there a way BNI could sponsor my organization? I don't know who you are, so I'm not sure. There is something called the BNI Foundation, and they do work with children. So you could always submit a grant application if you go to the BNI Foundation's website. But I don't know, for sure, but I definitely know that their focus is helping children in need, and all around the world. So if I'm a betting woman, thank you, Steve, for sharing that. So Steve found the link to the organization. So hopefully everybody will click on it and learn more. And I think, sorry?
Steve is quick.
Steve is the ghost. Everyone can't see him here, but Steve does not mess around. That's why he's my lovely assistant. So, that's what I would offer to you Thank you for the work that you're doing. We really appreciate it. And all of these links and resources, make sure that you save the chat. So that way you can have all of these later after this is over. But thank you so much.
Oh yeah,
And
how do I do
then,
that?
so if you go to chat and you
Uh-huh.
open up the chat box next to where down the bottom where you can type, there's like a smiley face. Do you see? Steve, if you click on the chat, oh, you know what, Helen? I'll send
Yeah,
you a copy of this chat because you're on your phone today because you had some
yeah,
technical difficulties. I'll send you a copy with all the links, okay?
okay,
Okay,
thank you.
awesome. Right after this, I'll send, absolutely, no problem. But for everyone else, just click on the three dots in the chat box and save chat. So, so thank you so much. And then we had Sally came back. I think the ignorant among us assume that autism means a lack of intelligence. Yes, but in my limited experience, that's completely a fallacy, and they're not related at all. Yes, because it has to do differently. It's not about how intelligent someone is, and I think that that is a big misconception or myth for this community. So I, thank you for sharing that, Sally, as well. Rosalind Gonzalez, one of my favorite all-time people. What can we do as BNI members to help welcome and support a potential or new member who shares that they are on the spectrum? So someone that actually comes and says they are on the spectrum. I think we touched on this a little bit, but if anything else that you have to add would be helpful.
Mm.
I would say ask questions. What do you find challenging? What's working for you? And how can we help? When you ask guided questions also, any question that just defers back to, oh, are you having a good time or are you having a bad time? How's your experience? Oh, it's good. What does that mean? So the more specified we can get in someone's experience, and even as Helen mentioned earlier, mapping it out for somebody too, going back to, goals. So someone attends one or two meetings and, ask them, okay, well, what are you looking to get out of this? And then, helping them map out a strategy the same we would with any other member. It might just be a little more dialed in.
Okay. Helen, did you have anything to add?
I agree with Eric. Just give him a minute maybe, and just maybe give him a list of steps.
Yeah, no, that is great advice. And also, I mean, being a fast talking New Yorker, I know that I have to slow down sometimes when I'm engaging with people. And also what I've heard, and either of you can tell me if this is true or not, that phrases like, what is it? Like metaphors or
Analogies.
Analogies.
Yes.
Yes, that because not everyone gets it, they'll take it literally sometimes, depending on who it is. So not saying things like that, because it may not make sense. So being mindful that saying some of those things might not make sense. Helen, what were you going to say?
I was just gonna say it's hard for me to recognize sarcasm sometimes. Been hard for me just to recognize sarcasm.
Yes, that was the other one. That's what I was thinking of, sarcasm. So being sarcastic, which again, we encourage members or discourage members from being sarcastic in general in a meeting, right? Because it could be off-putting to anybody who's not part of that group. But sometimes people may not understand. So I've heard that many people on the spectrum don't get sarcasm. So keep that in mind the next time that you have someone visiting your chapter.
Which is extra difficult for people originally from the Northeast.
Yeah, so this is what I'm saying. Thank you for getting that, Eric. Thank you. Yes. So yes, Rosalind wholeheartedly agrees with that. Yes. So and then so Steve actually dropped in the chat. This is how amazing this man is. My executive producer. I like that better because it makes me feel like I'm Oprah. So Steve dropped in the chat the chat that's saved. So you can click on that and download if you are at your computer and be able to do that and be able to just save that if you're unable to save it on your own. Okay. Because when you save the chat too, it will, after this is over, it will be saved for you. Okay, so thank you for that question, Rosalind. And then it's Therese Colongo, if I'm saying that correctly, was the one who is running that organization out of in the Congo. So thank you so much for sharing. All right, so it looks like we don't have any other questions in the chat. I just want to take this time to say thank you to both of our guests. And before you go, don't go yet, because I'm going to talk about next month's chat. But thank you both, Helen and Eric. This has been phenomenal. This is going to be uploaded both on our BNI USA YouTube pages, as well as BNI Business Builder for your resources. And if you've been here with us today, don't forget to add and give yourself 1 CEU. So thank you both again so much for the time. This has been incredible. It really has made a difference for me. Usually on these topics, I'm pretty well versed. I know I have a limited knowledge of this, yet I'm very passionate about it. So thank you so much, really, just for providing all of the resources.
Before, I'm actually looking for a job in my field. So if anyone has anything or any suggestions, just please feel free to reach out with anything. Thank you.
Yes, so Helen is in the New Haven County area of Connecticut. So Helen, actually, because you asked me that yesterday, so I was actually going to reach out. But I'm going to connect you with our managing director. And I know, Helen, you can also connect with the group that we are forming down in Fairfield County. So we'll make sure that we see what's happening there. But that was awesome. So thank you for that.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. And next month, everyone, come join us the second Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern. We're actually going to dive into intersectionality. Some of you have no idea what that word means, but basically it's the different identities. It is talking about race. It is talking about gender, gender identity, sexual identity, disability, religion, all of those things. Because someone might not just be a woman. They may be a Black woman who is disabled, or someone who is in the LGBTQ space. So we're going to talk about how those different identities play a role in business and in networking and just in the world in general. So this is a conversation that I am very well versed in. And we're going to have a really exciting panel from across the country. So you do not want to miss that. And I am a psychic. Steve dropped the link in the chat, so you can register for that right now. It will be on the regional events calendars. So again, feel free to sign up for that. If you are interested in being a part of that talk, you can reach out to me. My email is claudiathompson@bni.com. Thank you again so much. We are excited to see you next month, and thank you for joining us today. Have a great day.
Thank you.